Hola, mi gente! Last Thursday of April 2025. And I thought we, mi gente, will talk about what Trump is doing great. Contrary to popular opinion, contrary contrary to what Americans like to call the liberal media, Trump is doing something great. Trump is succeeding. He's like the best of the best in one thing. He's succeeding in the American Africa policy. Foreign policy, I don't know, but Trump African policy is just perfect. You know why, Miente? Because he's showing at last that America has none. He's getting rid of the ambivalence, the nuance, the confusion, the different thing that America used to like to do, democracy, whatever, human rights, all of those values, American values that Trump is showing were bullshit. Bullshit. He's just getting rid of everything. USID, all of those embassies and consulate that he's closing. I think that's just perfect. Trump is showing that America for a long time pretended to care about Africa and never really cared. They were like, yeah, let's do it. What does it matter? With the aid, yeah, but, security, whatever, whatever, whatever. Trump is clarifying things, and that in the African case, I think it was exactly what was needed. Clarification, clarity. Nuance didn't work because he made bullshit possible. I think in the African case, it was bad and he had serious consequences. Now, most African countries, not to say all African countries, know what's up. They know that America is not going to say, yeah, great, democracy, you have to do this, human rights matter, blah, 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 blah. Now they know what the rules of the games are, and that they know that, yeah, Trump doesn't care. He's not going to, babysit you. He's not going to say, yeah, but when you say that Trump is having, that his African policy is great, is wonderful, you have to talk about Biden's Africa policy. You have to talk about it and realize that he made a huge mistake. And that in this area, as in many others, he assumed that the first Trump administration was a blimp, was, something that would never happen again, and that things would go back to normal, that he didn't have to be different, that all he could do is to go back to Obama 1 and 2, or even to Clinton, or even to whatever things used to be, and that he could just, have a conventional African policy, not to say a foreign policy, blah, 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 blah. With all the respect that I have for Anthony Blinken, he was a terrible, terrible Secretary of State. It was terrible. But I don't think that was his fault. I think the problems start at the top. What were the goals when he came to Africa? What did they do? What did they do? Miente, I remember that summit conference that Biden had. I think it was 3 years ago, 2022, when he invited a lot of African head of states to DC. What was the point of that? Do you remember it? What came out of it? Nothing. And that's what is heartbreaking. America had an opportunity with Biden, even with Obama, to do some shit, to get some shit done. And they were like, yeah. And I think that they were ambivalent because they thought that they had time. They thought it wasn't the priority. And they thought that, yeah, but Africa is always um, the continent. Africans are always the people that, people are like, yeah, but what, whatever, whatever. I can talk about this because I wrote an op-ed in in a Cameroonian newspaper. It was an open letter to Biden asking him to be clear and to be decisive and to say certain things about Africa, Africans, and African lives. And Yente, um, what was heartbroken for me is that I never even had the impression that somebody, not even Biden, that somebody in the Biden administration, that somebody in the American embassy in Cameroon read my op-ed. Never. Nothing. It just went like poof. And to me, that's the problem. When people who are competent start to, they're becoming clearer and they're not able to do the right things because it's too difficult and because they think that they have time and because they're like, yeah, Africa, yeah, but no, China, we can do this, we can afford to be, to go like this, to get it both ways. Never to be clear and never to do the right thing and never to say this shit is wrong. So for me, Miente, when I see Trump closing, you know, some American embassies, consulate in Africa, I'm like, great. When I see what it's doing with USAID, when it comes to Africa, it's going to cause a lot of damage. Absolutely. American aid was indispensable in some places. I agree. But I think that American ambivalence, American nuance, American um, standoffishness kills. It killed lives too. And I think that with Trump on this issue, I'm like, bravo, bravo, bravo. Because it's going to force whoever comes after him to do what Biden didn't do. Be clear and decisive about what is America about in Africa. In Africa, what is the goal? Does Africa matter? What is the goal? Do you just want Africa to love America? Just, soft power, give a candy, give Americans natural resources or whatever, security, whatever, but nothing, no reciprocity. Or what is the goal? What do you want the relationship to be about? Those conversations are made possible by the chaos that Trump is bringing in. In this area, I think it can only help. Is it going to help America? It may not. It may not make America great again. But at least this way, Africans understand that they are alone and that, yeah, they have to put their grown up pants on and decide what they want to be for themselves and not pay attention to America. It might change, it may not change, but the chaos that Trump is bringing in by breaking everything, by not giving a shit, not giving an F-U-C-K. It makes Africans realize that, yeah, the future, their present is about them. They have to stop looking to the West, to any other countries. Just be responsible and just decide, this is the relationship that we want. So that the next American president, whoever he is, even when he is a Democrat, realize that, no, we're not going to wait for you guys to figure out your shit and to figure out what you want us to be. What are your interests? We're going to talk to you about our interests. So whatever happens to your politics is going to stop being so important to us, you know. Yeah, in this area, in the MAGA sphere, Africa, their African policies. Bravo, guys. You know what? Because change was needed. And I think that um, there was so much complacency. There was so much je ne sais quoi that made things just awful, just the way it used to be. Even, I can go back to, my first American president that, when I came to the US, Clinton. And I like Clinton. But I think, I forgot. Bush, Obama. But I think with Obama, the excuse that we can give Obama is that I don't think he couldn't be the guy to make this change because he was half Kenyan. There was no possible way that he could, do what was needed. He wasn't the right person to speak on any issues concerning Africa. He tried. His Cairo speech, good speech, good speech. Was it consequential? No. But he may yet be. But what, again, Trump is just excelling at right now. I can say that. It's April 2025. And me, I think that Trump is just killing it. He's killing it. He's winning when it comes to Africa. Because by destroying things, he's making them clear. And I think that it's beneficial. It's beneficial to America in the short term and to Africans in the long run because it gives both parties the time and the opportunity to make some tough decisions, some existential decisions, you know. So the USID thing, yeah, crappy. I don't really take the corruption stuff seriously. I think it's just whatever, you know. But I don't think it really um, helped really Africa. I think it was essential to make Africans, many Africans survive. Yes, but I'm not sure it was a plus to the development of Africa. It's always more complex and complicated, but I think the way it was applied, because there was no vision, wasn't always helpful. And I think that by just destroying it and being brutal about it, it's a good thing because it means that whoever comes next, whatever comes next, is going to be clear for a while at least. And that Africa and Africans are at last unable to be blind to the fact that America is not there for them and that they have to decide where to go. They don't have to make those decisions as a group, you know. Different African countries may have different interests, but I think that it might be time for Africans to come together on some issues. On some issues, Africa is very, very diverse. You know, diversity is a thing on the African continent. So yes, Miente, I wanted on this last Thursday of April, after Easter, Pope Francis died, to just say President Trump is killing it on the American, on the US Africa's policy. He's killing it. He's like the greatest he's the greatest American president ever. Toni Morrison said that Bill Clinton was the first African American president. President Obama was the first real African American president, half kin. I think that Trump may just be the first African president in America. So, yeah, go Trump on this issue. Go Trump. And unfortunately, and for me, that's heartbreaking. As a Democrat, as somebody who wanted to believe that Biden could seize the moment, that on this issue, because he didn't have to do a lot, his voice would have made such a difference. That he could do that, he could speak, he could take some risk, that he could do that. He didn't. And that's why Trump too is possible. The second Trump administration is possible. And I think that what is happening right now, unfortunately, Joe Biden, Tony Blinken, the American ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Greenfield, they have to look themselves in the mirror and wonder what all their experience brought beside some shitty stability. They messed up. They messed up. And it's so heartbreaking because there wasn't much that was needed except a clear message. Something other than to say to Africans, you have to follow us on Ukraine. You have to do this and to do that. I will end this episode with this question. Can you tell me what one thing that Biden got right on Africa? One thing. I can't think of anything. And that's the reason why Trump is killing it. Killing it. America is winning like he has never won before when it comes to Africa with Trump. By breaking everything, he's clarifying a lot of things. There is no longer any excuse here. Africa knows where America stands, and America with Trump and after Trump is going to decide what exactly are its interests in Africa. My hope, Niente, is that when it comes, Africa would have learned the lesson that they should have learned after the Biden administration. Don't wait for America. Don't wait for France or England or China or Turkey or India or whatever. Don't wait. Waiting for others is like waiting for Godot. Do things for yourself. Very, very tough to do, but necessary. Yeah. So, Trump, awesome African president in America. His African policy is just la crème de la crème. Perfect. Miente. See you next week. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. À mardi.